6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
Like, what a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to the C4 Podcast, brought to you by Full Press Network and on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. I'm Anna Forsyth on Twitter at aforsyth03 with my wonderful co-host Chris Golden at Lightforce. Lost in the smoke, we have Matt Lee _61, and playoffs are over, but for the Canucks, but still mystery surrounds Adam FOC, who is still unfit to podcast. Chris, how are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm busy keeping it real in the early days of the apocalypse. It's raining. For those of you who aren't in Vancouver, it is raining. It is, which, you can tell when Vancouverites are excited by the rain based on one of two things: stupid long heat wave drought or forest fire smoke. There's really only two reasons why Vancouverites tend to like the rain. Yeah,
it's strange, but I'm very happy to see it's raining. Hopefully the smoke dispels and the apocalypse will be over.
Mm-hmm.
But we're kind of burying the lead here because, apocalypse, old news, not that exciting. The real exciting big bombshell news is we have a very exciting guest today. We have Sam from Broadcast, from Area 51, latterly from Rob Fay Nation, at Samantha CP on Twitter. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for coming on.
I'm impressed you got the underscore because every time we do broadcast and we give our handles, I always forget that there's an underscore at the end of my handle.
So wait, sorry, you forget that there's the underscore?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, I feel like my email address has an underscore, and whenever I say it, people are like, what is that? And I'm just like, it's not that hard, but no, I remembered it. What we're going to talk about, well, obviously we'll talk a bit about Broadcast. We'll talk a bit about Area 51, which is a podcast I've really been enjoying over the sort of COVID times, because it's a very reflective and interesting analytical podcast. And we'll talk about Sam and her journey on radio, but also just get her thoughts on postseason stuff, Canucks stuff, and then what might happen in the future. Anything else you want to add, Chris? Any other news?
News? Oh, I pay attention to anything, newsworthy. I mean, I would share the topic that we were discussing before we hit record, but it's not that kind of podcast.
No, it's very much not safe for work, and this is work for us, so not discussing that. But, it's a big story on Twitter of the weekend. Big story. So look it up.
Unintended.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm sure you guys can figure it out or look it up on your own time.
Yeah. Well, for our patrons that are currently listening to the start of this episode, big news, an episode of Off the Rails is going to be coming to you very soon. It's been long overdue. We've got the logistics worked out. Maybe we talk about the big news in OTR. I don't know.
Yeah, there are different rules for OTR. So, we had actual hockey to talk about. So it's been, very much on the rails. But Matt isn't here today, so we'll go off the rails in our episode later on. And that'll be out for patrons next couple of days. Tomorrow?
Next couple of days. Yeah, we'll let this episode sort of simmer a little bit.
Yeah.
And then OTR will go live to our patrons in a few days after. Patrons, join Discord. You're there. I'll drop the note in patron chat. And if you are curious about OTR, the easiest way to listen to that fantastic bonus content is to become a supporter of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast by going to patreon.com/C4 Podcast.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that little plug, and all that coming up and more after this. Welcome back. This is Rewind. it's meant to be the week that was, but it's been a little more than a week since the Canucks exited the postseason. But we lost to Vegas. But let's rewind a little further. Now we've got Sam here. What were your thoughts on the Wild series and the St. Louis series? How did you read that? Did you sort of see that coming, or were you surprised as Canucks were getting through it?
I wasn't entirely surprised by the Minnesota series. I thought that one they had a good shot of winning. I was surprised by the St. Louis series. I am a natural pessimist, and my tendency for expectation management so that I don't feel grumpy for days at the end of it is to just tell myself they're going to lose when I look at that series on paper. I was surprised and impressed by the effort that they put in there and managing to topple the defending Cup champs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're a natural pessimist when it comes to Vancouver Canucks, you'd fit in right well with us here at C4, because apparently we're a little too pessimistic at times. It's funny that you sort of mentioned the expectation against the Wild as being, Vancouver should get past Minnesota. I think that was the general expectation by most of the professional media, most of the unprofessional media, such as us here at C4.
Very unprofessional.
The rest of what we would see in Canucks Social. So I have to ask, when Vancouver Canucks rolled out that game one performance, did you drastically think of things different? We had Chris Faber on, I think it was the show previous, and Chris Faber had guaranteed a 3-0 sweep, and we lit him up, something terrible,
as you should have.
when he made that guarantee, and then subsequently when the Vancouver Canucks lost, we blamed him. But thinking back to that first game, how did you feel?
Honestly, despite expecting them to beat Minnesota rationally, the part of my soul that is truly a Canucks fan, just at any given point when they do something like that, I'm like, oh yeah, of course you did that. It's disappointing, it's frustrating, but there's a part of you that has to kind of laugh when they do something like that.
Yeah, it did seem like it wasn't just it was a completely bombed effort. And the Jets game previous to that, the exhibition game, it didn't really move me one way or the other. But when it came to the Minnesota game, I just thought, oh yeah, this makes sense.
I've been on this ride before.
Yeah, it felt a little too familiar. But obviously after that, they went pretty dominantly through the Wild. Was there anyone in particular that you were impressed with or surprised by?
I thought the person who surprised me the most in the Minnesota series, and probably shouldn't have at this point, was Quinn Hughes. You saw how good he was all season, but I didn't really expect him to have found another gear in the span of the 2 or 3 month break of quarantine. And he was on another level.
Yeah, I think that's fair because, we were amazed that he could perform at each sort of level that he's gotten to. We saw him at the very end of the season, said, but can he perform when it comes to regular season? And he did. But I think playoffs are a different beast anyways, but after a quarantine lockdown and and a pretty grueling training camp, I was pleasantly surprised with how quickly he adapted.
Yeah, me too. And he seemed to do through the rest of the series too. He would have a couple of games where you were like, oh, is this where he's kind of running into a wall? But then he just seemed to come back and do something different.
Yeah, it's kind of like how we saw PD figuring out the league. It's just a little puzzle he had to crack. How do you compete when you're not the biggest guy, which neither of them are. Yeah. And obviously we heard so much about that over the months, but they just used their hockey sense and figured out a hack almost.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, honestly, I would agree with you. Is there anyone else you're going to nominate, Chris, for player of the series or for that plan?
It's kind of like what I had suggested, and when we were talking about it back then, Bo Horvat started to sort of occur to me to be that Trevor Linden-esque player. So, I mean, I'm old, so I remember the 94 series as if it was yesterday. And Trevor Linden, he was a skilled player, but he wore his blue-collar outfit on the ice. And there were times when he decided, yeah, no, we're not going to lose. We're going to win. I'm going to, take control of this game. And that's functionally what I think inspired the cast of characters around him. When you look at Bo Horvat against the Minnesota Wild, he just sort of decided, I'm going to impose myself on this game. And the players around him sort of saw their captain, leading the charge and decided, well, I kind of have to get on to this horse and go along for the ride to go a little off the rails. I was talking to a friend about the movie Glory. And
which one's that?
Oh, it's about the U.S. Civil War. It's an all-black regiment, but there's a character that Matthew Broderick plays, and sort of one of the final scenes, Matthew Broderick goes and leads the charge. Now, it doesn't work out so well for him as it may have done for Bo Horvat, but it's that inspirational charge towards adversity, and in this particular case, it worked really well for the Vancouver Canucks. Off the rails, I know, talking about old hockey and old movies. That's what I'm here for, folks.
I honestly was going to ask, is this something I should be watching for C4 at the movies? Like, is this a sports movie I missed?
Not a sports movie. It is a U.S. Civil War movie. It's got like Matthew Broderick, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Carrie Ellis. I'm sure I'm missing others here. It's a
we
good
can look
movie.
at the IMDb. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. But I was going to say that's the type of movie I think where I would hear who was in it and be like, "Oh, that sounds good," and then maybe once I started looking at the trailer, be like, "No, it's not for me."
Yeah.
U.S. Civil War. It's I know it might not be for everyone. It's not like Mystery Alaska, which is a phenomenal hockey movie.
Yeah, that's my favorite hockey movie that I've been forced to watch.
Well, forced, I'm sure. Back on rails, though. The Vancouver Canucks get past the Minnesota Wild, and we then see them play against St. Louis, where the one thing that stood out for me was not so much for anything to do with Vancouver. I mean, we saw Besser start to really contribute. Quinn Hughes still looked real strong. Bo Horvat, Petey was effective. The special teams, both the power play and the penalty kill seemed to be doing well. It was sort of the one series where both pieces were working. It had more to do with the goaltending in my mind in St. Louis, where you had, Calder runner-up Binnington, who really probably should not have seen the ice as much as he did. And then you had Jake Allen, who, not going to lie, Canucks were lucky they didn't face him late in that series. Am I wrong to think that here? Like,
no disagreement from me.
Yeah.
I was genuinely shocked when Berube put Binnington back in for Game 7. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Honestly, I haven't said the nicest things about Jake Allen over the years.
Fair.
But, he's like a bit of a subpar goalie. And Jordan Binnington, as much as I really, really dislike him as a person, he's been pretty damn good. But that series, he was just gone. Like, the kind of thing to do would have been to take him out back and shoot him. Like, he was done in that series. Metaphorically shoot him.
This podcast got dark.
His blocker side just caved in. I don't know what happened to it, but he was atrocious.
Yeah, he got the yips for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of I don't know, it's the playoffs. I think ride the hot hand, and it was a bizarre decision for me. From Craig Berube, who I actually really like as a coach.
Yeah,
I think he's quite smart in general, but.
I mean, you have to consider, Allen's performance against the Vancouver Canucks was solid. Like, he put his team in a position to win. Binnington, whether it was the team in front of him not having confidence in him being able to stop a puck, or the fact that he didn't have the confidence to think he could stop a puck. Like, Sam, you had mentioned his blocker side caved in. I'm not too sure why he brought the blocker out with him. Like, it didn't seem to do anything. In fact, it might have been slowing down his stick a little, trying to move it around. Like, it just, Binnington had a rough series.
Yeah.
And that, it's, when we saw him start and then the Canucks just ventilate, it's like, oh my goodness, this team is now suddenly going to go and take opportunities when they have that to go and run with it. And, we'll talk a little bit about maybe how that didn't occur against Vegas in a moment. But it was probably the first moment in time where I suddenly thought this Vancouver Canucks team has a chance. I was happy that the Vancouver Canucks were giving St. Louis a run.
Yeah, I mean, we did record literally right after, like, minutes after Game 4, and I think we were pretty downbeat and thought, yeah, well, that was fun whilst it lasted, but that's all she wrote. But it was really gratifying to see it turning around. Sorry, go ahead.
That was the rational reaction.
Yeah, but, when the sports fans rational, rally, so...
Well, I don't know about other sports fans, but Canucks fans are a very rational group.
So rational.
Right? Like Canucks
never polemic, ever.
Definition of, rational thought, if you just search #Canucks. But, when we think back to that individual series, against St. Louis, I mean, were there any other Vancouver Canucks that, rose to the occasion? If there's one that I haven't actually mentioned, this is the moment when suddenly I had belief in Sutter. Maybe not his contract, but the role that he fills in the team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's maybe one of the only times since he signed that contract where he's actually performed to at least a level that I would expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, we kind of were told he would rise to the occasion. We just didn't expect the occasion to be quite this late on in his contract. But, I mean, it can only be a good thing, especially if we're to make off-season moves, and we'll discuss that later on in the podcast. But it might be helpful.
Good timing.
Yeah. It's like a contract year, but like a trade year.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other name is Tyler Mott. Like, I think so. We have this term that Matt stole. I can't remember where he stole it from, but we use it as Jag, just a guy. And Tyler Mott, for the longest time, has been just a guy to us here at the C4 podcast. But I think he's more than just a Jag now. Like he's the type of player that if you need just a guy, he's the guy you want, as opposed to just anyone that you can put on a roster. And I think when we consider what he was starting to do against the Blues, it elevated him to what we saw from really the Canucks' third line in 2011 and some of the more successful lines, eating tough minutes, reliable on the ice, providing you a low-risk opportunity, yet getting, dude was on fire. He was like the next Conan Barbarian, right? Like,
I think we should just leave a small space for Sam to just say what she wants to say about Tyler Mott. Like, just have this few minutes, like, go off.
I mean, okay. Just talking about being irrational, I know that his statistics and his underlying numbers are not great, and you can dig that up, but you're right, there's something about Tyler Mott, especially in that series, where he just seemed to rise to the occasion. That's not to say that it made any sense for him to be playing as many minutes as he did, because that made no sense. But I have a soft spot for all players from the University of Michigan, because I grew up watching Wolverines hockey. And so I've always had a soft spot for Tyler Mott, and coincidentally, all the other girls on the broadcast also love Tyler Mott, and it became kind of a running thing for I think I don't know who
Don't
started it.
say.
I don't know who started it, but someone referred to him as our son, and now that's he's your Jag and he's our son.
That's perfectly fine.
And I think honestly, obviously we haven't like held him in the regard that Broadcast has ever, but I don't think anyone has. But but I think we've always kind of liked him because unlike other Jags on our team, he's paid like a Jag, and for the most part, until Travis Green went crazy one night, he's played like a Jag. So he's done his job, and he's got paid for it. Like, talk about blue collar hockey. Like, fulfilled his contract. So I think I've always liked him, and obviously him speaking up about mental health, that obviously was super important.
He's incredibly likable off the ice. When they first went into the bubble, he was posting vlogs,
right?
Which I thought was really cute. And so there's a lot to like about him, I think, both as a player and as a person.
Granted, us at C4 did not create Tyler Mott-centric merch, but that left the opportunity for you and the Rods to do that. Was it Mott Girl Summer?
It was Mott Girl Summer. It started as we were trying to name the episode, and we had recorded during the game where he scored 2 goals. And so I think Vanessa had named the episode Mott to Trot or something like that. And she tweeted it, but we started just tweeting other puns and landed on Mott Girl Summer, which just stuck and people loved it. And it just it blew up from there. And George is obviously incredibly talented at designing graphics and merchandise. So we had a lot of people asking for Mott Girl Summer merch. So we decided we'd do that and 100% of the proceeds go to mental health initiatives in BC and in Michigan, where he's from.
Yeah, so everyone check that out on Broadcast Twitter, on Sam's Twitter. I've ordered mine. I'm excited for that to come.
Yeah. I'd share the link, but your store link is tough. You're on
Teespring.
Teespring, yeah. So search Broadcast on Teespring is, I think, the instructions that you provided on your last episode.
That is exactly it.
No, I was just going to say that I am a big fan of the episode pun. You can, if you read through our episode titles, you can very much tell which ones I wrote and which ones Matt wrote, because Matt just comes out with like a description of what we talked about, and I'm just like, how can I squeeze a pun in there?
Yeah. Matt's episode title: "We Talk Hockey."
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I do think my favorite in recent times is when we had Chris Faber on, and I called it Faber Intensive.
Oh, that's really good.
Thanks. Yeah. Anyway, big fans of the puns. And respect for Tyler Mott. That's something that our podcasts share now.
But Tyler Mott, single-handedly got the Vancouver Canucks past the St. Louis Blues, obviously, into the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And you could argue that at this point, the Vancouver Canucks were playing with, get what? House money.
Yeah, I think I heard that a few times.
Yeah.
House money.
And they were.
It took me a while to wrap my mind around this, and I think it was because of that previous series where the Vancouver Canucks took an opportunity in the St. Louis Blues and ran with it, that I thought, this is a Stanley Cup contender. And so some of the earlier performances had me really down. But then the rational fan of me kicked in, and it's like, where did I have the Vancouver Canucks at the start of the season? I said they would be fighting for a playoff spot, but they won't get one. And as a result, hail and frogs will all fall from the sky. So
you kind of got to the plague part.
Yeah, right.
True. That's true. I didn't have that foresight back in like September and October when we first started recording for the course of the season. But yeah, if you were to have told me the Vancouver Canucks would be, 1, beating the St. Louis Blues to get through the first round, and 2, taking the Golden Knights to 7 in the second round, I've been like, oh sure, let's do this. Like I would have been fully on board to that, because my worst nightmare was not that the Vancouver Canucks missed the playoffs; it's that they missed the playoffs by like 1 point.
Which, that was a reasonable prediction. They were a bubble team. Mm-hmm. And frankly, that was probably exactly what was going to happen if we didn't have bubble hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said it like I think we were bang on with our predictions. I mean, they were sitting out of a playoff spot. Whether they got back, I mean, obviously on point percentage they were in, but whether they got in or not kind of depended with how Demko could, because he was sort of starting to resurrect, but I don't even know if that could have carried out on throughout the season. So yeah, like you said, you'd have a lot of questions if you had heard back in September they'd be in the second round versus Vegas. I mean, namely, what's a hub city? What's furlough? What's all these kind of new words we've learned in 2020. But
I didn't realize there were beautiful mountains and lakes in the city of Edmonton.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Another fun fact that we learned.
Yeah. Learn new stuff.
Yeah.
Looking at the series, though, is there anything that the Vancouver Canucks could have done differently short of scoring at least one power play goal on a 5-minute major?
To be quite honest with you, I was surprised they even made it 2-7, and I'm not sure they actually deserved to as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like Thatcher Demko deserved to get to Game 7, but the rest of the team, I'm not convinced of that. I said before, I think right around the trade deadline, I had kind of made some offhand comment about the Canucks not really being in the same tier as Vegas, and there were a handful of people who really took offense to that. I think there are still people out there who think that because they made it to 7 games, it means that they're in the same tier and they competed well, and that takes a level of homerism that I just don't have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with you. I think almost it was more frustrating that we still probably could have won that series, even though we completely didn't deserve to. But like we were within like a period of doing so. We were within capitalizing on that like power play, and we could have won that series. I mean, I think that would have been all she wrote because, like, yeah, house money, they were cheating the house or something, getting to Game 7 with Vegas, but
I mean, the other part of that pun, which I didn't understand why everyone was using that analogy, is the house always wins.
Yeah.
So
100%.
We should stop using this.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think it's really more a product of, and you can see it from the Vegas-Dallas series, Vegas can't score to save its life.
Nope.
Like, I don't know what's happened. They just can't score.
And honestly, I feel like a lot of people are saying, well, Dallas are going to get run over as well. But I feel like Vegas were kind of done. I feel like Canucks broke their spirit with that terrible hockey they were playing, and they just got dragged down into something because they can't score anymore. I think, probably Markstrom and Demko broke their spirit, and just turns out if you just keep raining shots down on a goalie, nothing happens. So,
and it's continuing. I mean, they're out shooting Dallas by significant margins in this series, and they still can't score.
Yeah, although
I had just had a thought and I just lost it. It's a problem when you're as old as I am. But I kind of wonder if and you sort of pointed that out, Anna, that maybe the Golden Knights had to play down to sort of the Vancouver Canucks level. And we've seen the Vancouver Canucks do this over the years historically, where they lose to bad teams and they beat teams they have no business beating. I wonder if the Vancouver Canucks have used their voodoo, if you could call it that, on the Golden Knights, not getting that opportunity to play that high caliber play and running into a hot goaltender. Like I think we talked about a few episodes ago, it was like Mark Stone in the handshake, comes up to Demko and his eyes are like the widest saucers. He's like, oh my God. And then I think Khudobin was being described as though he had a real Demko of a game. Like, you've made it in the NHL when you suddenly become the verb.
After 3 games.
Yeah. And they're using it to describe, I think Khudobin, of goalies who played 30 or more games, had the highest save percentage in the regular season.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I do look at the Golden Knights as maybe running into that. But to defend us, Anna, you and I did say the winner of the other series was the one who was going to go win the Stanley Cup, either the Avalanche or the Stars. So
we did say that. And in my playoff pool, I've predicted Yeah, I predicted the Stars to win 6. So, yeah, they need to win one more for me, please.
I have the Avs.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my playoff bracket, I definitely didn't pick the Stars to make it to the conference finals, but yeah, since I have a mini pool where we're predicting each round, so I do get to get some do-overs in ways. But yeah, I think we've kind of said what we need to be said on the night series. Do you have anything else, Chris, that you want to ask Sam on the night series? No. I mean,
actually, no. I'm curious.
Okay.
Reeves hit.
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm genuinely curious. Is one round 3 game reasonable? Like I to give some backstory here. When it comes to brutal hits in the NHL, I want to see someone have the book thrown on them. This is not a reasoning. There was a hit that Edler laid out, and I wanted Edler to get the book thrown on him from preseason hockey. So I look at that Reeves hit, and I see one playoff game, and in my mind, that does not compute. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I mean, I think that NHL player safety is a joke. Whether it's regular season or playoffs, but they're a bigger joke in the playoffs because they have this idea that I don't know what the mindset is, but it's playoff hockey, so you got to let things go. Like that makes no sense. Like, why do you have a rule book then?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same logic by which Jim Benning said that Tyler Toffoli healed himself by wanting to come back. Like, he healed himself in double time. It's just like, that's
in
not
my
okay.
mind, Tyler Toffoli, he slapped his hands together like Mr. Miyagi style, started, rubbing them, and then Miyagi'd himself to health.
So it's just like, I feel like you're either saying magic occurred, or you're admitting that you put an injured player back on the ice.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for player safety, I think it's pretty funny my favorite thing to do when they hand out hearings or when they say they're considering suspensions is I immediately Google the player and I Google violent gentlemen and I see how many photos of them I can find in violent gentleman gear.
Yeah.
And then I like to predict how many games they get depending on how many photos I find.
I mean, try explaining that to someone who's never heard of hockey before. Like the committee that is designed to protect the players and eradicate all these dangerous hits, like, literally is associated with a brand called Violent Gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably some out there like, oh, you're trying to take hitting out of the game or, take the physicality out of hockey. No, not at all. I think the rules allow for physicality in hitting. It's just that the application is so inconsistent, and the Department of Player Safety fires up the golden wheel of justice to mete out suspensions and fines. There's just absolutely no appearance of a desire to keep people safe. I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, and I had sort of suggested, like, at this point, why not just bring back the code? Like, if they're not going to go and protect the players, let the players protect themselves. It'll be violent, it'll be vicious for a period of time, and then it will stop. Because every team is going to have a guy who swings his hockey stick like an axe, and no one will want to fear the wrath of it. But that's not the right direction.
No, obviously. And I don't want to abdicate responsibility from Reeves, but definitely not Reeves. But, like, how are players meant to know? Like, if this inconsistent punishment happens, how are they meant to know, like, that's not okay? Like, I'm sure no one takes it seriously when, you hear the benches yell, oh, like, that was such a soft call, but maybe they really just genuinely don't know the rules anymore because...
Well, yeah, I think I can't even remember which of the hits it was, but there was in one of the Islanders' earlier series.
Okay.
There was a hit where I think it was almost exactly the same as something that had happened earlier in the season. And one went with no penalty and one was a suspension. And just like, it makes no sense. I have no idea.
Was it Islander? Because Brendan Gallagher was involved.
Oh, it might have been that.
Oh, yeah.
I got all my East Coast team mixed up.
Yeah. Who knows what's happening over there, honestly.
But no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, where it was essentially 2 plays, but yeah, one of them's like, oh, perfect. Yeah, okay, I don't know how. And the other one, oh, well, if that one's okay, this one's okay. Oh, no, we're going to throw the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got AV saying, "Oh, like how the player, like Gallagher was shooting his mouth off after." And it's just like, but he does have a broken jaw. Like that's a medical diagnosis. You can say that he was shooting his mouth off after, but he was doing it with a broken jaw. Anyway.
AV did not have a good
No, it was a bad
bubble
postseason.
season.
Oh gosh, I'm okay. I might upset people. I liked AV as a Canucks coach.
So did I.
Same.
But
I actually liked him when he left.
Yeah.
Well, no, I still do. It's just part of me kind of looks at him and wonders, like, does he just not think the words through when they come out of his mouth, and then has trouble realizing that what he has said has had this impact? And yeah,
I mean, sure, but then he's an adult, so
no, you got it. Yeah, you
have
live by the sword, die by the sword.
Well, on that cheery note, we'll come back for half full, half empty, where we'll talk about Sam a lot more, her history as a fan, and all her different pies that she has her fingers in, and we'll talk about some off-season moves that Canucks might make.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
Here we are back with half full, half empty. And we thought we'd dig a little bit into Sam and just... Why don't we start off with like how you became a Canucks fan, like, and kind of your history with the team and from a fan perspective.
So the Canucks weren't actually my original team. I started watching hockey when I started playing ringette when I was, I think, 7 or 8, and I got thrown in goal, which I really didn't want to do, but then ended up having a lot of fun and decided that Patrick Waugh was my favorite player. There was like no basis. I had no idea who he was. There was just a giant poster of him in the ice rink one day, and I was like, that guy looks cool. So I'm going to make him my favorite player. And by extension, the Avalanche actually became my favorite team. And so for the first few years that I got really into hockey, I was a huge Avs fan. And it was a great time to be an Avs fan. It was like when they were playing Detroit and all those legendary series, and they were just really good.
Yeah, when they beat the Canucks up every opportunity they got. Yeah, I remember those years.
Yeah, those years. And then I got into the Canucks just because they were here, and my dad would take me to games, and it was obviously way easier to watch Canucks games. And slowly I transferred my number one allegiance over to the Canucks.
Do you still have a kind of soft spot for the Avs?
I do. I would say the Avs are they're my second team.
I mean, they're a hard team not to like. I think the only thing I really don't like about them is they have the same ownership as my football team, Arsenal, and they're very bad owners. But I think they do a much better job over here. They just don't tend to care.
Cronky, right?
The Cronkies, yeah. I just don't think they care about anything outside the States, so that's the main issue. But yeah, they're a hard team not to like.
Especially right now, it's just a really likable roster.
Really likable, really young and skilled. I mean, obviously, there's a small part that you're just like, oh, damn you, Kellen McCarr. But
we were talking about it in Discord in Gate 16 just this past week, how not only do they have a likable roster, they have a crap ton of cap space. Like, they're a good team that has opportunity that very few teams in the league have right now. So they're probably going to just become even better, which kind of sickens me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of resent them for the whole like bargain contract they have McKinnon on, but there has to be a reason he signed that. He signed that because he believed in this. Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of it.
He signed it. He signed it after 2 years when he thought he was going to be a bust.
I mean,
first round pick.
Yeah. But like, he's excited to be there, and as much as they didn't do as well in the postseason as they thought, as many people thought, I they're still very exciting, very young team. So yeah,
And
not at all
I'm
jealous.
a huge Joe Sakic fan, so hard not to like them.
See, I was going to mention the one other person I know that loves the Avalanche, Katie Lawrence, friend of mine. Some of you listeners might know her as the big Blue Jays fan. And there was a video of her knocking it like out of the park at Nat Bailey. Like, she can swing. Anyhow, when I asked her once, why are you announcing? She's like, oh, it's Burnaby Joe Sakic. And I think, Patrick was there. And so the way she reasoned it was very similar to what you did. So I respect that. Like, I respect that, someone becomes a fan of a team based on a variety of circumstances. But again, I'm a biased Vancouver sports fan. So take, anything I say with a grain of salt.
Also, maroon's a nice color.
The jerseys are good. I like them.
I mean, the Sharks are the best, have the best color scheme, I think.
Really?
Maybe the Kraken coming up have a real nice color scheme also. I mean, I still, honestly, it's probably just because I'm a homer, but I like our jersey the best. I like our old jersey the best, where it actually
Vancouver
said where we're from on it, but, let's not get too into that.
Bring me back to Spaghetti Skate.
I want the Spaghetti Skate too.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. Just as long as we don't have to have the pink jersey again.
Oh God, no! Don't get me started.
Yeah.
What, the salmon?
The
color of
salmon?
strength.
Oh, because salmons are strong? I mean, they are, I guess, but it's...
That was part of the marketing. The salmon jersey is a color of strength synonymous with the Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Let's not get into it. I was just like, I could start on that, but no, let's just not. So yeah, you kind of became a fan, but then when did that kind of fandom transition into something more? Like, how did you get involved with Area 51? And was it like Twitter that kind of sparked that journey?
It's been a bit of a whirlwind. I mean, I've been on Twitter for a really long time, but basically for the first 10 years I was on, I just kind of lurked and didn't really participate, and I only interacted with people I knew. And then I think around November of last year, right around the time of the Don Cherry comments, I like had a meltdown one night and just snapped and wrote an entire thread about how much I disliked the comments he made and the problems with them, and how I thought they were representative of the reasons why hockey isn't a bigger sport of the major four sports, and how it's just not a very inclusive sport in a lot of ways. And that kind of took off. And from there, I just started interacting with more people on Twitter. And I resisted doing podcasts for a really long time. I was like adamant that I was not interested in it and I didn't want to do it. And I had a few other podcasts ask me to come on, and I just was regularly like, no, I'm just not interested. And then Sean from Area 51, who started it, just caught me on the right day. It was I think the day that the Canucks put out some statement about how they were going to determine how to pay their employees for
the
games that weren't being played. And Sean wanted to talk about that, and that had just really irritated me that day. So I said, sure, why not? So that was actually my first podcast, and I had a lot of fun talking to Sean. He's just really easy to talk to. And he asked if he was looking for people to jump in on Area 51, just because it was starting to grow, and he brought in a team of really fun people. And Sean's vision for it from the beginning was he wanted Area 51 to be an inclusive podcast and to kind of tackle topics that weren't necessarily just the Canucks every week, but things that were kind of hockey adjacent. And he wanted help kind of pulling in different guests and things like that. And so I was originally supposed to do just behind the scenes stuff and help with the Twitter and the marketing or whatever. And I don't actually know how it happened, but I just ended up on the podcast instead.
So he just kind of unintended became a podcast host.
Yes. It was a very accidental journey into podcasting.
I hear 2020 does that to people. But I would say, just to pick up on what you were saying about Area 51 not being like exclusively Canucks. Obviously, the name is very Canucks, and it's kind of a nice little joke, inside joke with the Canucks fan base. But like the people you've had on, really interesting. You had Brock McGillis on talking about being LGBT in hockey and where hockey is at for that. Yeah, you also had, I'm just trying to remember his name, the guy that does the research, the hockey research. I found him fascinating.
Rick Westwood?
Rick Westwood, but also the, oh, this is bad because who is doing the like academic stuff?
There was Brett Party, and then we also had Dr. Courtney Cito.
Yes, Brett is who I was talking about. But yeah, just how do you go about like approaching where you want to go with guests?
So we've to be totally honest with you, the way I do it is I look at who I want to talk to and who I would want to listen to and who I have questions for. And we put together a list between me, Brad, Sean, and Malcolm. We've come up with a list of people that we think would be interesting, and we all kind of have our different interests and focus. So I think Malcolm's is more purely hockey, Canucks, behind the scenes stuff, and mine tends to be more outside the market hockey culture stuff. And so I think between the two of us and then Brad and Sean, we get a pretty good balance. But for me personally, it's just, I look at the stories that are in the news around hockey, and I try to think about who I follow on Twitter or who I read online that I think would offer really good insight, and who, for me selfishly, I think it would be cool to ask questions to. And then I just DM people and see what happens.
Well, you got some really good people that way. Yeah, Brock's episode in particular I found really fascinating, and it seems like he's getting a bigger profile and platform to talk about. Like,
yeah,
he's
the loveliest person too, and he's really good about keeping in touch, and we DM every so often. He's just doing some really incredible work.
Yeah, I know there's even Ron McLean gave him a shout out today, talking about the player in New Brunswick that's just come out, and it's hoping to inspire others to do the same. So yeah, just super important issues with that. Like, where along the line did you decide broadcast was also going to be a thing?
Well, I mean, it makes sense to me. If you have one podcast, you should have more. It's not like I'm stuck with one.
How many do you have, Chris?
Right now, 3 with an idea of 2 more.
Right.
Because like I have all this time on my hands with baby 4's work and all that jazz.
Well, there's 7 days in a week, so it's only taking up 5.
Yeah.
You see, that's what I tell my wife. I need you to come over.
Sleep when you're dead, right?
Yeah. But sorry, I don't mean to take away. I want to hear more about broadcast.
It was so I'm trying to remember how it started. I think Danny started a group chat that had all of us in it. And it wasn't to talk about anything serious. It was just something funny had happened to her, and we had all been talking separately in our DMs. And we just started a group chat one day, and so that had just existed for a little bit when the Brendan Leipsic comments got leaked.
Right.
And we were all frustrated with the way that it was being covered and talked about by mainstream media, for lack of a better word. I hate it. But we were frustrated by that, and we started kicking around the idea of doing a blog. And we kind of talked about that on and off for about a month, and then decided that writing is way, way too much work. So then we pivoted to saying maybe we should start a podcast. But by then there were no sports, and we were like, it makes no sense to start a podcast about sports when there are no sports. So we kind of iced that again for a while. And then as soon as they started talking about the bubble and games and things like that, it kind of came together quickly. There was just one day where it was the usual. We said, are we going to do this? And usually the answer is just like, no, let's not do it. And for whatever reason that day, we were all like, yeah, let's do it. And let's launch it the week before the games start. And within, I think, maybe 2 hours of us deciding to do that, Vanessa had put together that kickoff video.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, it was like, oh, I guess we are doing this. And she tweeted it out, and then it just went nuts.
Yeah, I mean, even before you guys had an episode released, there was Twitter was ablaze for sure. There was TV appearances, breakfast television. You guys were in the province recently as well. How much of that was like a concerted effort? How much did it just kind of come? And also, how did you respond to that? I know, like, Danny did the TV bit, for example. Was there any kind of leadership with that, or you just kind of...
It was completely unexpected. Like, we tweeted it out and we kind of thought, oh, we'll get a little bit of interest. And I think it blew up in a way that none of us expected. We didn't have that expectation at all. Somebody tweeted, like, this is like the best rollout strategy I've ever seen. I was like, we had no strategy. We literally came up with this one day and tweeted it out. And I can't explain it. I think it was just the right time, and maybe we were, enough had happened around hockey and talking about women in sports that it just happened to be the right thing at the right time. And I think partially because it blew up so fast on Twitter, that was where the media inquiries came in. Like, we had no plan to do a media tour. That was just it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And I still don't really know how to explain it.
I mean, I think personally that just speaks to the strength of the idea and the fact that people were just looking for new voices. I mean, you were saying that you were frustrated with the way the Brendan Leipzig story was covered, for example, but I'm sure there are lots of women that feel the same but didn't necessarily want to start a podcast about it. So yeah, broadcast kind of came along at that time, because you can have the best strategy in the world, but if it's a bad idea, people aren't going to respond. So
and you know what's funny is, in the weeks since, I've kind of thought about it, and I'm really proud of it. I'm still really overwhelmed by the reaction, but there is a small part of me that is like, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal that there are 5 women talking about sports in 2020. Like,
but it is. Yeah.
The amount of attention and people who are like, oh, this is like overdue. It's like, yeah, it is overdue. This should be the type of thing that's like, oh, it's just women like sports.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously on that page, but
yeah.
Well, we promote ourselves as the longest running Canucks podcast, but we know we're not the best out there. And for me, if the broadcast isn't currently the best out there, you're definitely in the conversation to be that. And I'm not trying to sell us short for your benefit, but to put this into perspective, and I was listening to your last episode in the truck this weekend, and my wife was like, "What are you listening to? This doesn't sound like something you would." I think that speaks highly of the broadcast, because she's right. I probably wouldn't listen to your podcast if it was just some random podcast that I stumbled on. So whether it was the marketing, the slick marketing campaign or what have you, is what got the hook. And since then, I enjoy I don't have a lot of time, as we sort of figured out. There are 5 podcasts that I listen to outside of ours when I do post-production. I listen to one called Dear Hank and John. I've started listening to Men in Blazers, which Anna might know, and Samuel.
I know that people, yeah.
Yeah. I listen to The Broadscast. I listened to a true crime called Dark Poutine. And then occasionally, when there were episodes, the Anthropocene Reviewed. Distinctly different podcasts.
Yeah,
the fact that Broadcast got in the mix, I think, speaks volumes. I'm not trying to, again, pump tires here.
Thank you so much, by the way. I love hearing that. It's a lot of the impetus for this was to create, we say it's a hockey podcast for women, and I love when we have younger female fans say to us that they enjoy listening to it, but it's also really validating when I hear from kind of all different kinds of people who you wouldn't expect to listen to it. You can say
old men. You can say it.
I call myself an old man. Like, I'm, there was, I can't remember which episode it was, but they were start talking about like the old sort of Caucasian male long-term hockey. Like I understand that's me. I'm trying to become better than I once was. And yet, but like that for me, like it's I find your podcast so entertaining. Like, if any of our listeners here at C4 don't listen to the broadcast, give them a listen. Like, hey, you know what? Like any podcast, it might not be for you. I know there are people that, heck, we get reviews about how we know nothing. We provide zero insight. There was an episode that Anna and I did. We got 2 horrible reviews after one episode because we were horrible. That's cool, because there are so many out there. But yeah, no, yours is for me. It's a must listen.
And I would strongly encourage our listeners, because our listeners are like majority men. Like that's definitely fair to say. So I think just to get your perspective a bit broadened, definitely a good choice. Just as you say, like it's not a revolutionary thing that women know about hockey and love hockey, but and
it's not just hockey. You guys. Sorry, I say you guys. I mean
I say you guys all the time.
Guys, okay. Gender neutral guys.
Is like you're talking about football at a level. I'm like, oh well, whatever. And just so you know, I entered your football pick'em pool because Anna wouldn't.
Yeah,
even though Anna would probably do better than me at picking them. But like that's the thing. Like it is like I'm not going to say I'm blown away by everything that you know, because I'm not. I expected smart people to know smart things, and I know there are a lot of smart people out there. But if anyone were to suggest otherwise, whoops, and I hit my mic, they'd be shocked. Like, again, it's just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this like on Twitter recently too, that I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm not going to list them because it would take forever. But a lot of them are sports.
An episode onto itself.
Yeah, it would be. A lot of them are sports podcasts. And every single thing that is advertised just does not apply to me. Whether it's Manscaped. Yeah, and if you haven't seen it,
an OTR episode.
Chris did throw out in the Twitter sphere my original read.
It was amazing.
Of a Manscaped ad. I couldn't revisit it. I was too embarrassed, but it was fun to do. But yeah, I mean, I just listened to a cricket podcast today where the literal 2 ads were Manscaped and Budgie Smuggler. And if you don't know what that is, Google it, but maybe on incognito mode and not while you're at work. But yeah, the market does not like point towards us at all. So I don't know. It's just honestly refreshing that it's just very like obviously for women by women, and then also for men as well. Chris has just looked up what Budgie Smuggler is.
You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to look it up right now. But yeah, I think. What else can we talk about? We've got to talk about Rob Fay as well. What's that been like, and how did that come about, and what's that experience been like?
So that's been wild. But first, thank you so much for all the kind words about Broadcast. That's really kind of what we set out to do, was we wanted to make a podcast that was a bit different and would really appeal to a really broad segment of people. Like, speaking of Rob once told me that the best advice he ever got, I can't remember who told him that, was if you're on the radio and somebody's listening to you, and there are 4 people in the car, there's going to be, I think he said there's 2 diehards, there's the casual fan, or maybe the other way around, 1 diehard, 2 casual fans, and then a non-fan. And your goal on every show should be to talk about things so that no one wants to change the channel. And
I love that.
Yeah, I had never thought about it that way. And he said that to me one day. I was like, I think that's, we've never intentionally set out to do it that way, but we just cover so many different things on Broadcast from different views. Like, we try to do the actual hockey talk and then do the hockey gossip and then just random.
That's where I get all my hockey gossip.
Well, I didn't know Markstrom was jumping off of buildings until I listened to the broadcast.
I know. Scandalous.
But
yeah, so that's what we've really tried to do, and it's always so nice to hear from people that they enjoy it, because you never know. And we've gotten a ton of really bad reviews, as you know, because I really like reading them.
Okay, so do I. Some of our greatest bad reviews I have screen captured, and occasionally they make an appearance in Discord or on Twitter.
It's the best. Like, sometimes when people say these things, I'm like, you actually took the time out of your day because we made you so upset that you took the time to come and type a message to tell me how much you don't like me. And you know what? I'll take your time. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, I just listened to a podcast where a comedian, English comedian, Josie Long, was saying how back in the day, there used to be like a forum because Twitter didn't exist, that was dedicated to a radio show she did where they recorded every episode and then like would take bits out to make fun of. But imagine dedicating so much time to someone you just didn't like.
I don't understand. Like, if I don't like something, I just mute it and I'm like, I'm not spending any more time on this.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the normal thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
there are a couple of Canucks podcasts that reach that criteria for me.
Me too.
Yeah, but then we don't talk about them, right?
No.
Exactly.
We're not all about that hate at all. It's been really awesome just to get it through like your journey like through Canucks fandom and like broadcasting. But like we have almost hit an hour already, but let's get quickly to Canucks off season. And the big money moves or it with the tiny cap space that Jim has to do. In Jim's presser, he did say that he wants to keep Toffoli, Markstrom, and Tanev because he can't do math. What are your thoughts? Like, let's go with goalies first of all. What's your thoughts on how the Canucks should move forward, and also what you think they'll do?
I have very firmly been on the Demko train pretty much most of the season.
Yeah.
I've said all along, I think they should have been playing him more. Like, I know Markstrom wants to play all the time and that's better for his game, but the number of games that Demko gets to play is outrageously low for a guy who's his age. Like, if you want to talk about goalie development, your goalie, for his age, he should be getting more repetition, and sitting on the bench for 40 to 50 games a season is counterproductive. And I think they haven't managed that workload very well. And I thought when he started playing, when Markstrom got injured, you know, people were like, he's not ready to be a starter. It's like, well, he's played 3 games. The first 3 were terrible. And then as he kind of settled into the role, he got better. And you kind of just have to give him a little bit of a leash to do that and to get used to it. And then he managed to pull out those 3 ridiculous games in the bubble and I think changed a lot of people's minds. I don't know if that's a good thing because now people seem to suddenly be like, oh, it's clicked and now he's a starter. And it's like, well, the flip side of it is it's 3 games and there's a very good chance that he's actually just going to be a decent starter and not like an outrageously good starter like he was for those 3 games. But all of that is to say, I think they should go with Demko. I think that makes sense. Markstrom deserves a big contract. Someone will be willing to pay him that big contract. And unfortunately, I think that someone might be Jim. Hopefully not, but I'm not optimistic.
Well, that's the thing. If Jim gives him the big contract, that leaves nothing.
I mean,
math is hard.
Math is really hard. I'm very bad at maths, but I'm not a GM, so I don't have
I like
to
to believe both sides of math.
Oh yeah. God, let's not start comparing honest Jim to.
Okay, my bad.
Okay. I mean, I on the flip side, I've been on the Markstrom train for a long time, but I do definitely take your points. The load management has been bad. I mean, Canucks made their bed. Like, how do you expect Demko to go when you are riding Markstrom so hard? He is covering up all your flaws, and then Markstrom gets injured. That's gonna happen. Goalies are gonna get injured. So your backup needs to be ready. And I mean, the same things happen in the playoffs. You can ride your goalie in the playoffs. I agree that can be a thing. But yeah, he was much better prepared. And still didn't expect him to perform like he did. But yeah, I think his growth is good.
I think he's better at his age than Markstrom was at at the same age.
Oh yeah,
and that's the only other reason. Like if Markstrom wants a long-term contract, he's 30, and that's just a high risk thing to do, especially when you have as little cap space as the Canucks do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. My only kind of caveat thing is the defense probably aren't going to get much better. Like, in fact, if you don't re-sign Tanev, they're going to get worse. And Demko played very well behind that difficult defense for 3 playoff games against Vegas, but can he do that for an entire season?
That's a totally fair point, and I think that's been kind of the basis of Tom Drance's argument that they have to re-sign Markstrom, which is that defense isn't going to get good enough, and so if you want to win while Hughes and Pettersson are on their ELCs, you need to have Markstrom. And I totally, you know what, I'm actually on board with that logic. But I have a really hard time around thinking of 10 years of Pettersson and Hughes and just when they hit 24, 25, just having no money to bolster that lineup. And it's just there's, I don't know. I just don't see a way out of it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I guess the point that I made, I don't remember if it might have been in the Lost Tapes. We did lose an episode a couple of weeks ago, so it might have been in that, so I will bring it up again. Just that depends how long you think the window is, right? And I think the Canucks are banking on that it's going to be in the next 3 to 4 years. And in my opinion, I'm not sure Demko will be ready in those 3 years, for example. Whereas he's definitely the smartest option long term. By a long shot, he is. But yeah,
I think that's a really good point, is what you think the window is. And I totally get the argument for Markstrom if you're looking at a short, finite window. I think I'm totally biased by looking for, I look at the Avs and the way that they manage to, they've got prospects coming up that should be able to extend their window for more than 3 or 4 years. And it's really hard to look at Pettersson and Hughes and think, why can't we do that?
Yeah, and I think the thing is they will be good beyond, the next 3 years. But the way this team is structured, the mess that Jim has already gotten us in with the Jags that he's paying $4+ million for, it's structured to win in the next 3 years. If we don't, then we're screwed anyway. So, but that's not really a good way to run a team. But
on that note, though, you could argue there's the two senses. There's the small window, finite. Maybe you need Markstrom because the defense isn't going to be there, but that'll get you the next few years. The other argument that one could make is that, okay, the window is kind of there. It's creaked open, and maybe you could start to string together a few, developmental seasons, what have you, and then bank on being able to keep your young core when these horrible cap restrictive contracts are off the books, and ideally the NHL finances improve, that the cap has gone up. The Canucks could be in a better space 3 or 4 seasons from now. So it's, in my mind, you sort of have to either bank on the here and the now, or you're banking on 3 years from now. There's really no way to see this as a 5-year plan at this point.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here that we vaguely agree that Demko is a smart move if you're planning for the long term. But Jim smelt playoff hockey. He got a little taste of it, and he's thinking, what if next year we can have fans in, and all that money will come from playoff hockey, and he will
not just Jim, Francesco.
Oh yeah, big time. But that's how Jim keeps his job. That's
true. I don't disagree.
Moving on further into the cap crunch. Tyler Toffoli. Yes or no? He stays or goes?
I saw somewhere today that they were looking at 4 years, $4.5 million, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Less than $5 million.
Yeah,
and I was
I think
if
4.8 or something.
If he would take that, I sign me up.
Yeah.
But that's the only way I would do that. I think anything over that, and there are so many needs on this team especially the blue line, and there's no room. And anything over 5 million, you're just like that. You're not improving that defense, and I don't see who else you sign. And for people who are like, well, you've got Brogan Rafferty and Ollie Ulevi coming up, and that's how you're going to fill out that roster. I'm not saying that you can't be cap compliant. Obviously, you're going to be cap compliant.
Yeah, because you have to be.
No one isn't. It's just that your team's going to be worse. And anyone who thinks that they're going to, and that's not to say they're bad, but expecting a rookie to come in and play Chris Tanev minutes, even accounting for Chris Tanev in his present state, like that it makes no sense to me. I don't see it.
Yeah.
The thing to consider, and we sort of talked about this in Discord, is the Vancouver Canucks could fit all like a Tanev, a Markstrom, and a Toffoli within their current cap. They're essentially done. You're getting Jags at less than Jag money at that moment, and then if anything were to go crazy, you're done. But I want to say it was the last episode, Anna, where we were sort of contemplating, what the future looked like, and the Ferland contract is a big question mark. We don't know, obviously, how he's doing. His health is paramount. I would want for him to be healthy, but in a scenario where he is unable to return and he goes on to LTIR, that's almost the bubble that the Vancouver Canucks need to give Jim Benning the ability to do stupid money. And I'm not trying to empower Jim to do stupid money, but like it's...
That's just, he'll hear you.
But could Jim already know this, which is why you hear him talking the way he is? Like, I don't fault him for saying we want to bring all our guys back, because you never want to go and play your cards face up as he is apt to do from time to time. But that then almost, like, the logic's like, oh, if the Ferland contract isn't there, okay, now you get the room to do this. You don't have to be, so insistent on getting rid of an Eriksson contract, because, like, literally, what team is going to take him? Like, there's currently 5 teams that are not near the floor. One of them is your Avalanche. They need to come up and buy $1 million to get to the floor. And then other teams where you need to try to take advantage, like the Tampa Bay Lightning, for as good of a team as they are in a real bad spot. They don't have that many contracts. They have very little room. And the only player on their roster that arguably they could probably move without issue is Braden Point. And I don't see them moving Braden Point. So, like, we got to consider what the Canucks are going to have to deal with. Tampa Bay is going to be needing to do something, and they have assets. Like, I come back to what Jim can do. If there's one thing that he doesn't have to worry about others dealing with or getting in the way of, is him trying to throw money at the problem. I'm sorry, I just don't like Jim Benning.
No, that's fair. I mean,
you're in good company.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that for sure. I think the trouble with solving the problems, especially trying to get both Markstrom and Toffoli re-signed, is, like, I've read a few articles about it. I read one today from Rob Williams, but it's all just nickel and dime stuff of, like, where can we save $1 million? Just like, oh, Oscar Fantenberg doesn't come back. It's like, okay, but, like, how much is he earn? And
So we're going to the proverbial couch cushion here to see what extra change we can find to order pizza.
Pretty much, no? I mean,
that's the thing I don't understand about the cap arguments that people get into, is when they're like, oh, but all these contracts are going to come off the books. And it's like, okay, but
you have to get new players. Like
you have to give out new contracts to fill those spots. And all of those spots are going to, if you want players to be good, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah.
And you're back in the same spot. Like,
yeah. I mean, Brandon Sutter, maybe he can, like, find a trade partner that could be something. Jake.
Somewhere out there, thank Jake. God for nepotism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. NFL. Like, the Sutter name, like, it really does a lot for people. And
someone somewhere will take him just for that.
Honestly, I was about to go super off the rails. It'll be really quick, but there's this old football story in the 90s, I think, late 90s, early 2000s, where someone who played for a non-league team, like, was not a professional footballer, like, semi-professional footballer, got his friend to ring up a Premier League manager and said that he was the cousin of George Way, who's this legendary player. And he literally got a Premier League game out of that, even though he was just absolutely terrible at football. So
that's awesome.
Like, we don't even have to lie. Brandon Sutter really is a Sutter.
Yeah.
Unless there are
Man,
any skeletons in that closet.
I need to find out how to get into the Olympics so that I could try to do that and say, well, I'm a golden Olympian.
There we go.
I mean, that's how that works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only. I don't have any relatives that I can bank on, so maybe I can tie my own last name to it.
There you go.
I want to ask about Jake. Jake is a hot
Jake.
topic in our C4 Discord, and I would suggest the majority of the hosts, myself, Anna, Matt, and probably Adam too, even though we haven't seen him in about a year, believe that Jake is probably going to be better served in a new environment. And that's not to suggest we want to get rid of Jake for the sake of getting rid of Jake. I really wish he could become the player many of us think he can be. But like, how long of a leash should he get? Or has that leash unfortunately run out and it's time to, as I would say, peace be with him?
I was a huge Jake Virtanen fan when he got drafted and was very much on the Jake Virtanen is going to be a power forward train.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very, very firmly not on that train anymore. And frankly, I think that it's because we all see these flashes of the game that he had in junior.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it every so often. You see the speed. You see the shot every once in a while. And you see that he was 6th overall, and it's this idea of the promise that we can't let go of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if he weren't from here, and if he wasn't 6th overall, and if we didn't get these flashes every so often, he wouldn't have gotten nearly as many chances as he's gotten. It's been 6 years since he was drafted. He is what he is, and he took a huge step forward this year, and he was still just he's going to be a great middle 6, bottom 6 forward. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have been trying to count on him being more over the years, and it's just never quite got there. And I do genuinely think that he might never be live up to the hype, and he probably won't ever live up to that 6th overall tag. But I do think he will play better and do better when he's not playing for his hometown team, when he's not surrounded by all his childhood friends. Hashtag worst crew ever.
Very, very questionable public decisions and comments.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and when your friends are going online and picking fights with people on Canucks Twitter,
friends and family,
friends and family. Slow day at the dealership.
Must be, but there isn't that temptation all around him to and that celebrity that he could just indulge in. I genuinely think he will be a better player.
I agree.
Okay.
I totally agree with that.
Peace be with you, Jake. We have all decreed it. The Brains Trust has decreed it. But I think the long and the short of it is that we're still in a lot of trouble. But some finagling will have to be done. Whether Jim is the right man to achieve that, who knows? I guess we have no choice but to believe.
As I always say, Jim, prove me wrong. Make me eat crow. I'd be more than if the Vancouver Canucks win a Stanley Cup because Jim Benning was the guy to make it happen. I'll go wash his car for a year.
I don't think he wants that, Chris.
I would love to be wrong. I say that all the time. I'm like, I would love to be wrong, and people are like, "You're not allowed to enjoy the wins because you're negative." I'm like, what are you going to do? Shove in my house and be like, "We can't celebrate"?
I find it
we need another
mind-blowing
episode on gatekeepers.
that people think that the people that say negative, quote unquote, negative things about the Canucks and their the way their management goes, as if we're just going to be really, really unhappy if somehow the Canucks win a cup. No, absolutely delighted. I really hope they get it right. I don't want them to be getting it wrong.
Exactly.
But I think that's almost a positive note to leave that on.
I think that's pretty positive.
Right? Negative but
we all
positive.
Want the Canucks to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
super positive.
Yeah. Such a positive podcast, guys. You heard it here first. Even without positive Matt, whose positivity lasted 3 months, and then he was back on the negative train like the rest of them. Yeah, you should have had the lost tapes. That was before Canucks won again against Vegas, and we were just very dispirited. So
I know that feeling.
Yeah, the internet
I
ate the
feel it.
podcast, so it was probably a good thing. But overall, we're positive. We're very positive.
Yes. C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, one of the most positive on the internet.
So before we go, though, we want to, like, we've been going for over an hour. It's been a long podcast, so thanks for sticking with us. That's to listeners, but also to Sam, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, give us a little flavor of what's coming up with broadcast with Rob Fay and with Area 51. Any like bits you can tease for us?
Yeah, we've just dropped an episode of Area 51. It's the first one in a little bit. Took a little break during the playoffs. So we're just starting to reach out to different guests again, and we're waiting to hear back from a few people. Hopefully we land them. Broadcast will be the usual.
Yeah, great.
The usual. So I think we're going to try to do a few more different sports this week. So there will be football. There will always be hockey talk. We'll do tennis. I think we're going to do F1.
Okay, yeah. Mallory's finally getting her moment.
Yeah. Mel's going to do an F1 segment in the next episode. So that's happening. And then Rob, I'm trying to convince Rob to film a promo video in a yellow suit like Cam Newton wore yesterday before the Patriots game.
Okay. He's one of the
few Rob
NFL players I've heard of because I have friends from Alabama.
So I think Rob could pull it off, and I'm trying to talk him into doing a promo video for Rob Fay Nation Radio in a yellow suit. So that's kind of where we're at for that.
I'm into that. I think if anyone can pull it off, Rob can.
I feel like it'd be really fun.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That sounds great. I mean, yeah, I have the new Area 51 downloaded. Excited to listen. I also have 28 episodes to catch up on before then because I listen to too many podcasts. Is there anything else, Chris, you wanted to ask Sam before she goes?
Actually, I noted one thing from earlier in the episode. What got you following Michigan hockey? Like, what was about the Wolverines that drew you in?
My uncle lives in Michigan, and he went to Ann Arbor for his graduate school. And so we used to visit like once a year when I was little. And so it was just a family connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the way you described it, like, okay, I don't think it's a player that sort of got you in necessarily. And I'm just curious.
They gave us Quinn. They gave us Tyler Mott. So, like, happy.
Well,
I do like
they gave
them.
Us Brandon Morrison.
There you go. BMO as well. But they were yellow, and I'm just not about that life. So
it's not just yellow. There's blue.
There's blue in there. But yeah.
Blue and maize.
Maize.
That's what they call
Sorry,
it.
it's not yellow. Maize. Of course. Well, what a note to end on. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Like, our pleasure.
You're now upgraded to friend of the show.
Yes. Right? You're friend of the show now. Yeah, absolutely.
The illustrious honor that everyone in the Canucks social sphere competes for, being friend of the show, the C4.
Now that I'm a friend of the show, I'm just going to harass Chris about having me back on to talk about gatekeeping.
Yeah, we absolutely should have you on to talk about that. That's definitely a great topic. Well, I mean, we don't know when hockey is coming back. Like December, January, who knows? So we have time. We'll definitely be asking you back for sure. But thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. So as we wrap this episode up, if you're looking to find us online, head to the c4podcast.com. It'll take you to canuckshockeyblog.com, all of our previous episodes. You can find Sam online on Twitter at SamanthaCP_. Don't forget the underscore. Otherwise, you'll find an entirely different Samantha CP. The podcast can be subscribed to in every possible location known to man or woman. And if it's not there, let me know, and I will do my best to remedy that. And if you've made it this far and you have yet to actually subscribe to the podcast, you really should, because let's be honest, an hour and 22 minutes of listening, subscribe is, you have to do it. You've gone this far. Leave us a review. We haven't had a review in a long time. Remember, we will read them verbatim. It could be a great review. It could be a horrible review. We will read it. And
5 stars, it sucks.
Or 1 out of 5, Chris and Anna are awesome. But they're actually got a comment on Twitter, you don't read bad reviews? Damn straight we do. And Trevor Nickname, who spelled his name backwards and gave us a horrible review, can vouch to that. But
yeah, we will read it out. Send it in.
On behalf of the Missing in Action, Unfit to Podcast, we don't know when he'll be back. I don't know when the Carter at Adam FOC, myself, Chris at Lightforce, Matley at Matley_61, Anna Forsyth at A4Say03. And again, a huge thank you to Sam for joining us. You can find her on the broadcast, Raw Fay Nation, as well as Area 51, online and Twitter, and in a future episode when we talk about fan gatekeeping. We out.